Gunpowder, gelatine, dynamite with a laser beam, everybody. Welcome to the Football Ramble. Ipswich and Exeter march on in the Cup in Ten Hag's team in Press 2. It's Wednesday, 27th of September. I'm Marcus Speller.
I'm Andy Brassel.
And I'm Pete Donaldson. That song was recorded for the Sheer Heart Attack album in 1974.
74.
74.
Thanks to Jeff Fraser for choosing today's intro line. My hands are tied, as you know, Peter, when it comes to this.
It doesn't sound the same when Alan Partridge isn't doing it, but you've got to be the closest.
I tried to give it a bit of a gangster rap feel, Andy, but it is ultimately a Queen song.
Yes.
You know?
Yes.
It was a double A side with Flick of the Wrist, a song I do not recall.
No. But thank you for beefing up our Queen knowledge. We're indebted to you for that. You can choose the intro line for next Wednesday's show, of course. Just sign up for the Football Ramble Patreon using the link in the show description. Now, everybody, of course, there was some incredibly juicy Carabao Cup action last night. Before we get to that, though, I want to talk about the Turkish Super League, a league that is very close to your heart, Andy.
I pay my $5 a month to the Patreon, and so therefore I get to speak about the Turkish Super League on the main ramble, but only when Luke's not here.
You were so pleased with this moment that happened in the Turkish Super League that you posted it twice in our WhatsApp group. And Luke Moore, showing that he doesn't really read it, then posted it again. Go, guys, get a load of this. It was unreal. But there we are. But the moment, the moment that we're talking about is Mauro Icardi missing an open goal for Galatasaray last night. And people say, well, an open goal's bad. Well, why is that so kind of spectacular?
Yeah,
it's because his teammate decided to pass a penalty to him rather than shoot from a penalty.
Yeah, it's great. It's a great footage. It's a great piece of footage, and I don't think the man's done anything wrong there.
The penalty passer?
The penalty passer has not done anything wrong.
He executed it perfectly.
He executed it perfectly, and I mean, astonishing. Fortitude and testicles to allow a player to run from so deep.
Yeah.
And the players are just so not on their game
Yep.
to pick it up. But yeah, I just Andy, what do you reckon? I think it was all right.
I think when Kerem Aktürkoğlu plays the penalty, he just taps it for Icardi to run in. Really, that sort of deep run that you're describing, you need Brian Robson. Or Robbie Earle,
right.
One of the two.
Robbo would get weighed down in his blazer, though.
And in the end, you get Mauro Icardi putting it wide in the post. But he didn't seem too gutted by it. He had a big smile on his face, didn't he?
Well, because it goes down as a bad miss for him, whereas it goes down as a penalty miss for...
Presume that will always go down as a penalty miss, whether it goes in or not. Fascinating.
But it's a shame, though, because we saw, was it Henry and Pires try and do this for Arsenal, and they buggered it up.
Yeah.
There was one or two others. I mean, there was Cruyff for Ajax years and years ago. Perhaps the first one to do it, maybe. I don't know.
But he scored.
Yeah, they scored.
Yeah.
But as Pete said, like, this would have been brilliant.
Yeah.
Like, this would have been shared around for all the right reasons. Icardi just needs a tap at the open net. and he's
he did two things. He did score the winner later, but on the other hand, it was 0-0.
It was
like, what were they thinking of?
Look in the Turkish Super League.
Look at the coach's face.
It didn't end 0-0, more importantly, thanks to Mauro Icardi. And also thanks to a few of the Manchester United players last night. That game didn't end 0-0 either.
No.
It was 3-0, Peter, against Crystal Palace at home. Nice to see Stevie Brucey on TV.
It is, yeah. It was... I think when I see him in a Manchester United context, I do sort of go, you've got to respect the man. Because he scored over 20 goals from defence.
Nice,
and he was good at penalties.
It's nice to know that you're beginning to respect him. It's like post-managerial appointments and so on, there's been a bit of time, and you're thinking to yourself, Be Here Now wasn't that bad an album, actually.
That's never going to be an opinion that I have. But yeah, it was almost...
Time is a great healer, is what I'm saying.
Yeah. Well, I thought Martial's goal in particular was a beautiful finish. I had precious little else to say from a match I watched for all 90-odd minutes.
Yeah, okay, fair enough. I mean, it was Gary Neville said it was their best performance of the season. Manchester United, of course. It'd be strange to say that about Crystal Palace. But it was a comprehensive win. And
is it because Has Magaz started?
Do you know what, Andy? I'm glad you said that. Harry Maguire was there.
I know you're glad I said that.
Solid, given 7 out of 10 in a number of the articles,
that you've
player
written.
ratings, which I submitted.
That's the best you could give him.
Do you know what, though?
Through gritted teeth.
What was a shame was the fact that Steve Bruce then applauded him. And it's a bit like, if you're a politician, you're trying to make your way back and you do something, and then, I don't know, like Liz Truss endorses you, like, oh, no.
That's the last thing I needed, yeah.
But it was good. Mason Mount as well got an assist. He didn't play the full game, of course.
He looked so pleased, didn't he, when Casemiro headed that in? You don't want to project all the time, but it did feel as if everything was weighing on him a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Mainly you saying he's probably not the right player for Manchester United a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, although having said that,
although I think all those, not even criticisms, but suggestions, I thought were justified.
Thank you. But also, I'd be interested to see how he is deployed and how this season goes at Manchester United. He's better off there than Chelsea, though. We can all agree on that.
Certainly. And I think as well, you probably look across the pitch and think, fucking hell, Sofian Amrabat was one of the best players at the World Cup in midfield and he's playing at left back.
Yeah, right. Well, I mean...
He sneaked into midfield, though,
yeah,
didn't he?
He did.
Every time he'd have the ball, he's like, I'm going over here now.
Yeah, I was going to say, at times he played left back, Andy. He was...
Ten Hag told him to play left back.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah. I think with someone like Amrabat, obviously made his debut first start for Manchester United. It's good to see him. Like, it's one of those ones where, as an opposition manager, how do you deal with that? Because if you try and set up, he does move around so much. It's very, very difficult. But on the other hand, if you're an opposition manager, you'd say, right, where have they put him in the team sheet? Right, target that spot because there's going to be a gap there at least a few times today. I don't know. What do you think about the signing of Amrabat? It's a good one, Andy.
Yeah, I think it is, and particularly because this was another example of how influential Casemiro is. They can't lean on him for like 55 games a season. They just can't do that, and they've missed him horribly when he's out. Now, Amrabat, I'm not saying
he's going to be exhausted. I'm not
saying Amrabat can't play with him, but he can play instead of him, which I think is really important. So United needed to do something about that, and clearly Scott McTominay, well, he's better when he's off the leash, as we've seen for Scotland, but clearly Ten Hag doesn't see him as a starter for big games, does he?
Amrabat and Casemiro, he can play with him, can play without him. It bodes well, Andy, you would think. Crystal Palace, of course, will be returning to Old Trafford on Saturday in the league. Are they just going to stay up there, Pete?
Oh, yeah, good point. Maybe they will. That makes sense, doesn't it?
With the trains, I think it'd probably be wisest.
But then where are they going to train, Andy?
I don't know, just
as in football train.
Right. Very good.
That would be quite nice, wouldn't it? Maybe Heaton Park or somewhere like that. What do you think of Garnacho? He's dyed his hair back. He's not got the blonde bob anymore, as far as I could see. Ten Hag is... I thought he was quite refrained for a Dutchman, and I suppose he is, but the Dutchness does come out when he's quite blunt, when he basically said, well, we've got his qualities, he needs to show them now.
Yeah.
It's interesting, isn't it? He's quite... At times, he's quite sort of brutally honest in interviews. I mean, with Jadon Sancho, as we know, of course, as well. He made another comment there. But Garnacho, should he be starting more games, do you reckon, Brassel?
I'm not against that. But I think it's a tricky one. It's like when Andre Villas-Boas, yes, I'm going to mention him, was leaving Frank Lampard out of the Chelsea team when he first arrived. And there was loads of complaints about him leaving him out of the Chelsea team. But when he was using him sparingly or bringing him on, he had a huge impact. So, is the fact that Garnacho is being used mainly in this pinch hitter role, not in this, obviously, but in other games, and, he could have, but for a hair's breadth, turned that game at Arsenal, for example. Is that the suggestion? Not that he should be starting, but that he's being used in the right way? I mean, he's young enough that it's easier to sell that viewpoint, I suppose. But look, he makes an enormous impact every time he's involved.
Do you trust Ten Hag with him?
Do I trust Ten Hag with him? In what sense?
To deploy him correctly and sort of phase him into the team? Or do you trust Ten Hag in general? Because Arturo Vidal doesn't.
Does he not?
No. Did you see this? He spoke out against his managerial skills and whatnot when he arrived at Manchester United. The coach came in badly. How are you going to take out Cristiano Ronaldo? That's how these guys are. He was the scorer and he takes him out. These bald guys are very complicated. Yeah.
I mean, he's almost bald himself.
Voluntarily, I think.
Yeah, do you reckon? I mean, he's chosen baldness.
I guess that's the thing.
Ways.
Arturo Vidal is on a daily basis celebrating not being bald by wearing a novelty haircut for far too long.
Yeah, it's like it's like a naughty older brother sort of like putting their hand really close to their little sister and going, I'm not touching you. I'm not touching it. I'm not bald yet. I'm not bald yet.
Oh, am I going bald? No! There you go, you see.
Yeah.
Interesting stuff. Well, yeah, I mean, he's basically basing that on Pep Guardiola, isn't he? And Ten
These
Hag's now
bald
in
guys
the
are
same
very complicated.
in the
Who's the
Manchester
most
area.
uncomplicated bald footballer? Because I'm sure Dick's got to be Julian
Do you know what?
Dix.
That came into my mind as well.
Yeah,
you thought about the
children of
penalty.
80s, yeah.
Nothing complicated about them. He gets a few mentions on the show, Julian Dix does.
He does, yeah.
But again, Dick's bald by choice.
True,
I mean,
yeah. Didn't he grow his hair back as an older man? Yeah.
Everyone went, what are you doing?
What are you doing, Dix?
Do you remember to Turkey for a...
I've got to go and get a job.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I've got to be a respectful
I
citizen.
can't have arm tattoos.
Yeah, he's been to Turkey, got the old hair transplant. No, I just went for a holiday and watched the Super League with Andy Brassel. Enough of the baldies. Okay. Well, going back to Ten Hag and some of the chat, he was quite blunt, as you would expect him to be now, about Jadon Sancho again in the post-match chat. Sancho himself is reportedly banned from all first-team facilities at Manchester United, including the canteen. That's a low blow.
What's he doing at the? What's he not allowed? What's he done at the canteen?
I
Using the canteen.
I just imagine it makes sense for him to be banned for the canteen as well if he's going to be banned for everything else. What's he going to go? Oh yeah, I realise I can't train at the moment, but I just thought I'd come in for sausage and chips. I mean, I don't really like the Waitrose ready meals, so I thought I'd come in.
I mean, if you make him
yeah.
out like he's a character from Oliver Twist, Andy, I have some sort of sympathy for him. But yeah, he's eating and training with the academy players apparently.
So does the academy have a different cafe then?
And what if it's better? What if he's like, joke's on you?
Do you reckon it's just all like kids' food, like Froobs and stuff? Egg and chips?
Yeah.
Presumably it's like
Spaghetti
Subway
hoops.
where you go in at lunchtime from school, design your own sandwich, and if it's good enough, they put it on the board.
Yes, okay, yeah.
That's true. Well, I'll have the Sancho sausage.
Alpha
please.
bites.
The Sancho sandwich.
Is it true that if you get a Subway sandwich tattooed on you, you get it free for life?
I think that's...
I don't want anybody to do that. I cannot discourage people enough.
Yeah. I mean, to be honest, Subway
But
have...
if you do find out,
have had various marketing missteps in their history, worth a Google. But I would say that the Subway tattoo is probably second or third in missteps.
Really? It's that bad,
wow.
is it?
Yeah.
Okay, perhaps more on Ramble Uncut later.
Yes, I'll be doing a takedown on paedophilia and sandwiches.
Right. How about that? The Pete Donaldson story.
Paedophilia. Performance and cocktails, paedophilia and sandwiches.
The tricky follow-up album. Jadon Sancho was being talked about in Germany, obviously because of his fine work at Borussia Dortmund. But Borussia Dortmund said that they were... What did Bill describe
He was
it as?
messy. He was a messy eater.
Exactly.
Get spaghetti everywhere.
It was awful. He put spaghetti
baked bean
on his
juice
bratwurst.
on that yellow kit looked terrible.
They said that because of his off-field activities, and it's like, ooh, and it's because he played computer games late into the night.
Right.
That was what it was.
Well, he was playing computer games last week, wasn't he?
Was he?
He's playing FIFA, wasn't he? Or EFC, yeah.
Whatever you call it.
Imagine playing FIFA rather than boozing.
Yeah, I know, right?
Outrageous.
What's wrong with hippie
playing
crap?
EAFC rather than boozing.
Oh, okay. There we
Yeah.
are. Makes a difference to... do you hear what Wayne Bridge was saying about Gus Poyet's man management? He said,
Right.
if you go out on the pool the night before and you're a bit knackered and all the rest of it, just take the day off.
Really? Wow.
Apparently that's what Wayne Bridge
Wow.
was saying recently. How about that?
But what if you're like horrific to look at and you would say, Gus Pipe would go, there's no way. There's no way. There's just no way. You have to come in.
Yeah, I didn't want to
Vidal.
I didn't want to unpack it, if I'm honest with you.
Yeah.
Now at Manchester United, we do know that there's controversy surrounding the Glazers, of course, ever since their takeover, really. And the Glazers, they're often found hiding in the United States. I mean,
Are they hiding or they're just living?
They're
Right,
living
yeah,
there,
yeah.
but they're basically not
Hiding.
turning up at Old Trafford very
I'm
much.
hiding in Southend.
Well, Peter.
Well,
They can hide no longer because a Glazers out banner was spotted flying over the Tampa Bay Buccaneers Stadium, which is the NFL franchise owned by the Glazers, quite recently. So the fans are taking the fight to the man. It's good to see. Tanks on their lawn at last.
would you
I mean,
say...
were they at the game?
Ah.
Was there a game going on?
Oh, so
Do they
they're-
want them out of... Presumably if they misinterpret it and they leave the Tampa Bay Buccaneers they'll have more time to devote to hanging around Manchester United, presumably, making great decisions.
Yeah, I think people probably deserve that because they seem to spend very little time there. Either or, we shall see how that kind of works out. Right, let's have a little goosey gander at what happened in the Carabao last night elsewhere. League One Exeter City beat Luton 1-0. It's a Premier League scalp, Andy. It doesn't feel like a Premier League scalp, of course.
Not the way
it feels like a
played.
good scalp, though.
Yes, but it is
a thick, hairless scalp. One of those scalps that when they go at the back, there's so much fat there. There's little rolls, a lovely meaty scalp.
Why do we say it's a scalp? Scalping is like such an awful, horrific.
I think it's probably goes back to cowboys and Native American.
I know, Peter, but it's something we should have left.
We should have left.
I agree. I agree with you, and I agree also with your sense that Luton. People don't feel, rightly or wrongly, that they're a full Premier League team yet, which is, factually incorrect for a start.
Yeah.
But maybe we should say, in this context, Exeter took the next cellulite of beating Luton
Neck
Town.
fat.
Yeah. Dimitri Mitchell scored the winner, pouncing on an error in the 83rd minute. It was sent off for a second yellow in the 88th minute. What eventful. Because when I just assumed, was he over celebrating, and then you see, it was 5 minutes between the goals. So the goal.
That's a long celebration.
I was about to say, eventually calm down. You have given me no choice here, I'm afraid. Of course, Exeter are celebrating 20 years of fan ownership.
Bravo.
An example to us all. That was following Uri Geller's period as co-chairman. So
it needs to take something to push you to fan ownership, is what you're saying.
Quite incredible, yeah, indeed, Andy. I think you've just got to get a spoon bender.
So we're saying club stealing or Uri Geller.
Yeah, I
mean, are the two scenarios.
I hear that's why Jens Sancho's not allowed to.
Is that what it is?
Yeah. Just try to bend spoons.
I think you just really need to hit rock bottom before you climb up, don't you? It's just like all the fans are going, look, we can't have this nutter.
How did that guy make so much bloody money to afford even a middling football
because
team?
of his powers,
Because
Peter.
of his powers. Okay, right.
Did you ever see him on that chat show in the US where the guy was like, "Go on, and here's a spoon." Wow, you've ambushed me there a bit. Yeah, but you've claimed that you do this all the time. Go on, bend the spoon. All right, the mood is just not right.
The mood is just
you can't
not
do it,
right.
can you, Yuri? It's not one of your spoons. But yeah, so well done, Exeter City.
Yeah,
of course. And manager Gary Caldwell was gifted a tailor-made oak coffee table by a fan recently. It has integrated a tactics board, and pitch dimensions are to the scale of the home pitch on this table.
That's so nice.
It's lovely, but if someone gave you that, you would never want to see them again, I think.
It's a big gift, and I would say
it's a bit crazy. I would just worry about,
But nowadays, to have a bespoke bit of furniture is so rare.
Yeah.
So good on him, I say.
Also,
do you think I'm being harsh there?
I think you are.
I'm thinking of a bit crazed fan.
I'm thinking it just might not really go with the decor, because if you're in League One, if you're a League One manager, you're not going to have an incredible office. It's probably going to be a bit Portakabiny.
Yeah.
And then you've got, this £2,000 bespoke table in the middle of it.
Yeah.
You sat there in a camping chair doing your tactics.
Putting your Red Bull on it.
Oh, fair enough.
Get that man a coaster.
Indeed. Yeah. Elsewhere, of course, Ipswich Town pulled off a cup set. Came back from 2-0 down to beat Wolverhampton Wanderers.
What a fucking hit. There's no two ways of saying it. They should have said that on commentary. Yeah. What a fucking hit.
Jackie Taylor. Do you think that if the hit is that good, you're allowed a swear word?
Yeah.
That should be the rule, shouldn't it?
Yeah, it's a bit on a part of shit.
Yeah. Even for early afternoon games.
But it was. I would like to have seen in those situations. I would like to have seen him have a crack from his own box, because it was accelerating as it went in. So
from his own box.
So I want to know
shooting
how
from
far.
kicks.
Yeah. So I want to know how fast it could have gone, because it's still accelerating. We'll never know how fast that went.
I think
the net saved it.
The thing we overlook with these cup sets at this stage, because there are so many games in the EFL.
Yeah.
I think people look at it and say, "Oh, well, these top division teams have rotated their 11s." So have the lower division teams.
Yes.
Oh, wow.
Because they've got so many games. So this is like a half Ipswich reserve team that's done that. But it has to be said as well, Kieran McKenna is doing an incredible job there. He is going to the very, very top of the game. There's no doubt about it.
Really? And what's your interpretation of the top of the game?
I'll probably Fulham.
Come on, Andy.
I can be nice to you. It's a Wednesday, right?
Indeed. But you're right, though. I mean, considering the hard times which we've had in recent years, for them to be up there in the Championship, I think they're second, are they?
But it's the aesthetics. It's the aesthetics as well. You know, they were such a neglected large club at one point.
Yeah.
I mean, I must have told you about when I went to see Wimbledon away at Ipswich like a couple of years ago. And not only did an Ipswich supporting friend text me at half time going, "We've won a European trophy and now we're 1-0 down at home to you in a league game," which I thought fair enough, point taken.
Yeah.
But it was £27 to get in and it was pay on the gate. And when we got to the front, they'd run out of change, so I only ended up paying 25.
They are.
How can that happen at
When was this? 1995?
This was literally 3 years ago.
Why have they not got contactless, Andy? That's what I'm saying.
But some clubs still don't have
All right,
contactless.
fair enough. Maybe I'm being a bit
But
harsh again.
anyway, how can that happen to a club of that stature? Is my point.
Yeah, that's a very fair point. But now look at them. They've won 7 out of 8 in the Championship this season, going very, very well. And they're into the last 16 of the League Cup for the first time since 2010.
Yes.
And scoring goals like that, Peter.
Just whacking them in.
Indeed it is.
Whacking them in.
Reminded me of that Frank Lampard one for England against Croatia.
Whacking them in.
Which was at that stadium.
Oh, was it?
They have hosted an England game there in recent years.
I like that, Marcus.
Pretty sure it was Frank Lampard. If it's not, then up yours, everybody. Vincent Kompany's Burnley beat the class of 92 Salford City 4-0. Have some of that. That was Salford's first home game against top-flight opposition. They're building, they're climbing, Peter.
But what does that mean? As in the first one going against top flight? Oh, okay. So
against the Premier League side.
Oh, they've never played for some reason.
Well,
in
obviously,
my mind,
obviously league games they wouldn't have done that, but cup games have. I can't remember who Salford.
It would be a swerve to suddenly play Burnley in the league.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I'm sure
something's gone wrong
Ryan
here.
Giggs. Yeah. What a fairy tale.
There we go.
God.
Oh dear! And whenever someone mentions Ryan Giggs, I think it's time to go for a break.
And what's going on here? Somebody's breaking into my house, and that made me angry.
Welcome back to the Football Ramble, everybody. Of course, that was Big Duncan Ferguson.
Surely his default setting is angry. Yeah. Like
he doesn't.
I continued to be angry.
He didn't. I don't think he realises that though.
Right.
So for him getting angry is terrifying.
I had a bit of food with Sarah's mates from university at the weekend, and one of them looked a bit like Duncan Ferguson, enough for me not to be able to relax.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Is there someone in your life that looks a little bit too much like a dangerous man?
Did he look across the table and go, "You're going to finish the fucking greens, by the way"?
Yes.
Did you give him some chips and go, "They're vegan"? And he was like, "Oh, are they?"
He doesn't have to anymore, does he? He's getting what he wants.
Yeah, I was going to say he can
Eat
go back
what
to
he wants.
eating human flesh, or eating burglars for breakfast.
Yeah.
Well, Big Dunk has returned to management, which is the news we all wanted to hear. He's taking over Inverness Caledonian Thistle. Come on.
It's a very idyllic view from their stadium across the water. I'm sure that'll bring out the zen in him.
Well, it's not an idyllic view of where they are in the Scottish Championship, Andy, because they're bottom.
No.
So get the big man in to make them fly up the table. Speaking about the job, Ferguson said, "It's been a long time since I've been in Scotland, but football is football, so what's the difference?"
That's the sort of attention to detail you want to hear from your manager,
Do you
isn't
know
it?
what, though? Despite having such an impenetrable Scottish accent, it is quite interesting knowing his story. That he hasn't been in Scotland for a long time.
Yes,
you know,
it's like the Japanese footballer Honda, who just has spent all of his career trying to avoid going back to Japan.
Is that right?
Every time he's had an opportunity to sign for Vissel Kobe or something, he's gone, "You know what? I'll go to the Philippines for a bit."
Dearie me, that must have felt like a 100-hand slap in the face for the Japanese people.
Good stuff.
There you are.
Nice.
Get that reference, older people. Right, tonight in the Carabao Cup, Liverpool face Leicester. Top of the Championship, Leicester travel to second in the Premier League, Liverpool. Now, the ideal kind of ground for the fertile ground for a cup set is exactly what happened at Ipswich last night. It's a Premier League side who are not pulling up any trees, going to a Championship side who are flying. You can't say the same here because Liverpool have started the season very, very well, Andy.
Yes.
But in the name of Jamie Vardy, do you think there's going to be a cup set at Anfield?
I'm not sure it would be a massive cup set, would it? Because
it's a cup set. It goes in the cup set box.
I suppose, but like Leicester do look like a Premier League team on loan to the Championship.
And
they've got
Liverpool.
that whole feel about them.
And it's Liverpool.
I do understand that, and Liverpool are going to make I would say probably 11 changes.
Is this what Klopp would say if they went, well, I mean, Leicester, they are pretty much a Premier League
Klopp
side,
wouldn't say it at all because he didn't turn up to the press conference.
Oh.
He's taken it with the sort of gravity that, well, you know, Pep, you can go instead.
Well, with Harry Winks pulling the strings, Andy, there's a chance. The other day, in the game, 100%.
Are you contractually obliged to talk about Harry Winks every time we talk about Leicester?
I'm contractually obliged to talk about former England players doing very well, and, you know, is there a chance, is what I'm saying. But 100% passing accuracy, you know, he never put a foot wrong. Not even you having managed to achieve that, Andy, in your five-a-side career.
No, that's true.
So it's impressive.
Never pass.
No, there you go.
Shooting every time.
There we are, you awful bastard. Jürgen Klopp, of course, left it to assistant Pep Lijnders to conduct the pre-match press conference for the game, as you were saying there, Andy. Lijnders was talking up Darwin Núñez's recent form, saying he smells goals.
Rather than he smells of goals.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. That would be concerning, I think.
Okay.
But that goal he scored last weekend was a lovely one.
It's extraordinary how he managed to miss a couple of very presentable chances and score the most difficult one.
Well, because the one he missed, he absolutely blasted wide. And, of course, if that hits the back of that, it's going to be a beauty.
Yeah.
So for that, you think, well, you know, and he can come across quite reckless at times. But then, when you think about the goal he scored against Newcastle, what a finish, you can understand why he thought, I'm going to put my foot behind this.
The contribution per minute this season so far, especially you throw an assist in there as well, a couple of assists in there, it's pretty good.
But the contrast between those finishes to the one he then scored, beautiful.
They were so good against West Ham, who, like Liverpool this season, have sort of started quite sleepily in matches, haven't they? But they really did pick up, and they obviously they never went behind at any point during that match. But that West Ham midfield looks so good.
It does,
and they just kind of they really bide their time with it. McAllister, I find fascinating. It's rare that you see a player with such little acceleration in the Premier League, and yet
World Cup winner, McAllister,
and yet he's obviously fitting into that side quite nicely, and they're sort of going quite under the radar. But I think with a team like Liverpool, if you've got a front line like that, you're going to take your chances if when presented. Eventually.
Did you see, gentlemen, that former Liverpool players Sadio Mane and Roberto Firmino faced off in Saudi Arabia recently? Ooh. Firmino was left unhappy after Mane celebrated a goal by jumping on his back. I'm not surprised.
Pissing about.
We don't play for the same team anymore, you fool.
Pissing about.
Easily forgotten.
Yeah.
At least pretend it means something. Pissing about. It's right, isn't it? It's not a charity match.
Yeah.
Feels like one.
Do you think he said in Firmino's ear, you won't believe how much the goal bonuses that I've got?
Yeah.
You're making me, look, if you want to do this, fine, but at least let me.
Some guy gave us a fucking watch.
He's got an armful of watches.
Yeah. You're the referee.
Yeah. Wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. Right, elsewhere tonight in the Carabao, Newcastle United versus Manchester City, Peter. Big one.
Don't like to see these clubs arriving late in the EFL Cup.
Right.
Don't like it.
Why not?
Don't respect it. They should, if they want to play in European competition, they just need more players, all right?
Is that right?
God damn it.
You don't want to see them arriving late. Well, they're going to be leaving late. And Manchester City. Pep Guardiola is a bit annoyed that they couldn't source a flight home after the match, so they'll have to get the coach.
How did they manage to not source a flight home?
Hell.
I don't understand
Just
that. I reckon we could source a flight. With your connections, Peter.
It's very gaslighty, that.
Is
you
it?
shouldn't be flying anyway. Just get the fucking coach.
Yeah. How long did the coach take Newcastle? Was that 2 hours?
2.5 hours.
It was described as they're going to have to do the 142 miles, and it's just like, oh, really?
142 miles.
Outrageous.
Oh, late at night.
I know.
Oh, it's going to be heaving. Absolutely heaving.
Major League Soccer's got nothing on us. You know, have you seen the size of France or Spain compared to this country? It's ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. Yeah, so obviously he's a bit annoyed at that. But Pep did say that he might play for Manchester City tonight in order to rest some of his regular players. He said, my back is getting better, so I might manage a few minutes. Didn't say it quite in that tone, but you get the picture. He was also saying about very complicated. He was also talking about the young academy players, and he went, "They're so young. They're so young. So away at Newcastle's not the game for them." I was just like, "Who are you playing? Just tell us who you play. Like, you might play. You're not
so young."
I know, yeah. But I mean, people might say, because he was very openly, very honest about that. This is the type of game where we can play some players who haven't played many minutes, and I think it's very much been the
Yeah.
case with the cup. But you can't say Manchester City, sorry, or did a Gary Cook there? Manchester City, remember that one? Disrespect the competition because they've won it so many times, Andy.
Yeah,
True.
Mm,
although they did lose to Southampton in it last season,
yeah,
which was extremely disrespectful to the competition.
that was true. But it was Nathan Jones though.
Yeah.
Who was at the
True.
time, I think he said he was the best manager in the world.
Do you reckon the whole point of that is Guardiola looked over to the opposing bench and oh, that bloke's a bit weird, isn't he?
Yeah, if Pep's saying that, then you
Yeah.
know something's up. Indeed. Well, Pep was also asked about his previous comment when he called Matthias Nunes one of the best players in the world, and he said, maybe I over-exaggerated a little bit. He's not.
Oh,
It's like he's so socially awkward that he can't extricate himself from that without, saying something about his own player where you think, oh, that's not very nice.
I just like him to turn around and go, did I say that? Well, if I said it, it must be true, guys.
yeah, just do that.
Yeah.
The modern way of doing that clearly is going, I'm sorry if you heard me say that.
Yes.
That's
Yeah.
true.
That's how
true.
it's done.
I just got
really,
piss
isn't
off. I did not say that.
Piss off. Guardiola did admit, though, that he's failed to get the best out of Calvin Phillips.
Right, okay.
It's interesting. I mean, not playing him, would be the first obvious sort of thing to be. I think for the sake of England, he's got to start playing him, Andy.
Yeah.
Well,
he's-
this
he's
feels
very
like
much not English, though, is he?
this feels like a prime game for Big Calv to play in, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And Emil Kraft. Come on,
Oh,
get him in
yeah.
the squad.
There you go. Peter, surely that the League Cup evaded Newcastle last season.
Yeah.
Surely they can think to themselves, you know what? We can knock
Because of
this
Milton
Man
Go
City.
for this, yeah.
We could knock this flipping Man City B team out of the cup and march our way to the final again.
Yeah, I mean, they're probably exhausted after their situation.
Yeah.
It might be a good match for like Tonali to sort of get some more minutes because he's not really fitted into the midfield at Newcastle at the moment. So maybe he'll pop on some boots.
He's been playing
Have a
quite a
think
lot
about-
though, Tonali.
But he's not. He's kind of not improved the midfield like people would expect. One would suggest. So I don't know. I don't know where Joe Linton is.
I think they haven't quite worked out the balance of that midfield because you'd think the best three would probably be Bruno, Joelinton and Tonali. And I don't know. I think there's a bit of confusion about, as we've spoken about before, over what Bruno should actually be. Mystery over. It's the holder.
Yeah, well,
And
I
Tonali
think
should do the fun stuff and Joelinton should do the athletic stuff. So you've got the blend there, but I don't think they've quite...
At
the
the
mayonnaise
point-
hasn't quite taken yet, has
at
it?
the point at which the what else is in that mayonnaise? The mayonnaise is some like seafood sauce or something. What is there?
Big garlic.
You'd sort of say like when Bruno was signed, like he kind of had to do everything because he was
Yes.
the best player by some chalk. But
Exactly.
now he needs to sort of understand that he needs to play a position now. I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, with Newcastle though, I think it is interesting how they will approach this game because a trophy win would be so huge for the
Pound for
club.
pound,
Agreed.
it's good. It's a
Agreed.
good investment of playing time. One would suggest. Especially where they find themselves in the league. What's the point in going for a title?
Yeah.
Just concentrate on Europe and the cups. Come on.
Yeah, but though, having said that, the cup is important. But as we saw, with that game against AC Milan and so on, the travel, that extra competition, the different type of football they're going to be playing. Is this an opportunity to rest some players as well? Because you don't want to be... Because what Ange Postecoglou said in that very interesting interview with Gary Lineker was saying about how Spurs are desperate for a trophy. And it's like, it's got to be more than that. You can't just be... It's not just about silverware. It's about so much more. And so with Newcastle, again, you don't want to enter a situation where everyone's just jittery, oh, we've got to win a trophy. Because if you do things right, then you will increase your chances of that.
It's like the line of chat that has led people to try and question Pochettino's work at Spurs, isn't it? Is say, oh, well, he didn't win a trophy.
We are going to
if that somehow diminishes what he did there, which is nonsense. It's an intellectually pathetic.
We are
argument.
about to question his work at Chelsea, Andy.
Oh,
Okay.
please go ahead.
Yeah, feel free.
We could do that now, shall we?
Yeah, let's do it now.
Okay, well, let's go into it. Well, he's reportedly issued a dressing room battle cry after they lost to Aston Villa on the weekend. They're, of course, facing Brighton tonight.
What does the reckon that battle cry sounds like?
Well, he says...
It's like a...
Do you think? Oh, I think
There's a bit of sex in there.
Sex and desperation.
Oh, pappy. Let's score some goals.
Yeah, I mean, that is what sex sounds like.
It is. It is.
I
While they're crying. on my account.
I
I
thought,
cry during intercourse. Pete Donaldson.
yeah, is that
with my
tears of
partner.
laughter? I can't believe.
I can't believe
I've.
she's letting me do this again. Look at me. Look at what I'm doing.
Yeah. Well, and of course, with your live stream, we all could.
Oh,
Dearie me. Yeah, I thought Pochettino was a bit more. How can I say?
he seems to be saying a lot in the
Yeah.
press, and I did not think that this was how it was going to go with him.
Yeah, I thought. Let's say I thought he was more of a traditional Argentinian good football man, if you like. If you see what I'm saying.
on.
Whereas, like when he's talking about the lemons and other things, and I was like, oh, there are some odd layers to this chap.
Well, he told the press apparently that the problem with confidence is that we cannot buy it in the supermarket. He is obsessed
Yeah.
with the fucking lemons.
Yeah, you can, but you know what you can buy in the supermarket?
He's got a lemon farm.
I don't know. Well, I mean, what did you think that he's? I mean, because his man management techniques have been praised, of course, with that time at Tottenham and so on. You look at the tune he got out of those players, but we're still going back to that, Andy. That was a number of years ago now. Mikel Mudryk, of course, has not really settled to life in England, despite high price tag, high praise, and so on. But we've seen this happen before, of course. But Pochettino, one of the ways he's trying to get a tune out of him is take him on some sort of crossbar challenge. But Mudryk has refused to play this with Pochettino because Poch said, with Mudryk, I like to play hitting the crossbar from outside the box. But he said to me, no, I'm not going to play with you anymore because you always win.
It's not even from the halfway line.
Not from the halfway
And he's getting
line.
beaten by a defender.
That is poor, isn't it?
Yeah, it's like, that's going to destroy his confidence. But Pochettino said, the reason why I win is because I have the belief.
Right.
And he's got a lemon in his pocket. But Poch said, however, today was the first time that we draw.
What, 0-0?
There you go. Maybe, Andy, but there's improvement there. Would you imagine Mudryk running through a goal and he just smashes it against the crossbar and turns around to Poch and goes, hey, oh, no. I should have trained him to shoot just under. But, I mean, yeah, it's fascinating stuff at Chelsea at the moment. Did you see that their first team coach, Bruno Saltor, has seemingly left the club quite secretively?
Right.
And bearing in mind that he did take charge of the first team against Liverpool last season, so he's not like some inconspicuous figure in the background. I know he's not, the permanent manager, but he was, interim manager or whatever, just for one game, or caretaker manager, should we say? But he's been there a little while.
Heading for Brighton, maybe?
Heading for Brighton?
Yeah.
Would be a good idea, I would say, if they'll have him.
That's the point, isn't it? That he's a Brighton guy. So once Potter goes, you know that he's
But he was there
ultimately
under
going.
Pochettino for a few months.
Yeah, but I think you have an idea that he's ultimately going.
Yeah,
don't
but
you?
Andy,
it's poor communication. I'm not arguing
look,
with
it
that.
just shows you what's going on at the club because, as I say, he took charge of a first team game, right? So he was the guy in the chair, albeit for just one game against Liverpool. Not it wasn't like some small trip in early rounds of the cup or something. It's understood that his contract's been paid up, but there was no formal announcement of his departure. It's just somebody basically turned around and went, "Where's Bruno? I haven't seen him for weeks."
Makelele's gone as well.
Yeah.
He has.
Check his Instagram. He's on holiday.
This is classic football club comms. It's not just Chelsea, is it? I mean,
Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah, true enough. Well, I find it all very, very bizarre. But some good news for Chelsea is that they've reportedly been given approval by the league for Infinite Athlete to become their new front of shirt sponsor. When I heard that they were doing a deal with Infinite Athlete, I thought, is that you've not put his name on there? You've put his profile, kind of thing. But yeah, it should be on the front of their shirts for the big West London derby next week.
What is Infinite Athlete? Have we given it a Google?
I haven't. It's
I worry about these companies I ain't never heard of before.
They're US
Is it
based.
NFTs or is it something worse? Charlie Emerson's, sports tech. I mean, it's got a .ai URL.
There are words, but they don't mean anything in the order in which they're assembled.
Yes.
Okay. Don't click allow cookies. Okay. Whatever you do, they'll take over.
Oh, it seems to be like a sports streaming technology kind of thingy-me-jiggity-jig.
Yeah, that's the face of it.
AI injury detection.
I always quite enjoy it when you hear
Useful
about
for
these.
Chelsea.
You'd say so when you hear about those companies those questionable companies that sponsor Premier League. Like, they sponsor Premier League teams. And then someone looks up their headquarters and it's just like some iron corrugated roofed little shack in the middle of some nowhere town somewhere far away. And you think, something strange here, Andy Brassel.
Hey, Marcus, the general manager of Infinite Athlete
Is John Terry.
is Teodora Ivanova Limon. There it is. He's bringing the lemons in.
Oh, the good times are coming, everybody.
Yeah.
Negative energy will. Maybe that's it. It's the shirt sponsor. As soon as Infinite Athlete is on there, all in time for the Fulham game as well. That's
So
annoying.
basically, Pochettino's press conference was just the soft launch.
Quite possibly, Andy.
Yeah.
There we are, everybody. Well, thank you very much for listening to the Football Ramble, part of the Acast Creator Network. It's been an absolute pleasure having you with us. Tomorrow, myself and Andy will be back with a Ramble React, everybody. So get on that tomorrow morning. Of course, following tonight's Carabao Cup action. Patreon subscribers, don't go anywhere. Keep listening for Ramble Uncut. And if you're not signed up, get yourself over to our Patreon by hitting the link in the show notes. Also, follow us on Twitter, TikTok, YouTube, and Instagram at Football Ramble. And don't forget to subscribe on your podcast app. Thank you, Andrew Brashnell.
Thank you.
Thank you, Pete Donaldson. And thank you, Mauricio Pochettino's Lemons. See you soon.
Thank you for watching a clip from the Football Ramble podcast. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss an upload. A single upload. Don't miss out on the uploads. The uploads are in